Right, whatever you're doing in there, stop it and open up.
5 minutes.
Right, I'm coming in. What are you doing in there?
Having a nap.
I've been a bouncer for 9 years, and this might be the saddest thing I've ever seen. Mate, go on.
Yeah. What time is it?
10 past 11.
What happened to me?
You got old, mate.
Hello and welcome to Haunting Button House, a BBC Ghost podcast. I am Luke and I am joined by Tash. How are you, Tash?
I'm tired, Luke. I feel like it's been a while since we've recorded because we recorded the last episode, the last 2 episodes.
Yeah.
So
I suppose it hasn't felt so distant because I edited the other one close to the time. To me, it's like, we just did the one last week though, didn't we? But yeah, I forgot we didn't record it. So it's been 2 weeks.
Yeah, it has been.
So what have you been up to in those 2 weeks?
Well, not a lot, to be honest.
Not a lot.
Well, I haven't been up to much. Although I want to just bring something to the table.
Okay.
Last night,
Yeah.
I was on TikTok. Other apps are available.
Not for that kind of stuff. Just videos, just like short videos.
Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. They're all copying though, aren't they?
Anyway, and you know I love EastEnders.
I do, yeah.
For our listeners overseas, I don't know if you know EastEnders, but it's a programme about a suburb of London in the UK. Obviously, where's London? And I love EastEnders. And sorry, Shelley's just eating her biscuits at the moment.
I see you say eating, decided to scatter them all across the floor. So.
Anyway, and a clip from EastEnders, an old episode came up. And who was in it? Martha Howe Douglas. I cannot believe it. I completely did not. I mean, at the time of that coming out, I don't think Ghosts was
No, definitely not.
But yeah, she plays a character. I think she's only in one episode, maybe 2. But yeah, she pops up where someone's faking their death and she's trying to get money out of them. So
I think when you showed me the clip, I was like, I do remember her being.
I remember that, yeah,
but I don't remember.
Can't believe it was her. I was like, wow. So yeah, that was a blast in the past. All I've been doing is watching EastEnders and TikToks.
As you do, yeah.
Yeah, so pretty much sums up my life, to be honest.
Fair enough. Well,
Ghosts, EastEnders and TikTok.
Well, as I mentioned, I've been to Belgium for work. And let's be frank, I just brought back lots of chocolate. About
€50 worth of chocolate.
Well, I thought I might as well while I'm here.
When in Rome.
To speak. So I brought back a lot of chocolate. Not much else, really.
No. I didn't mind, though.
That's fine. I mean, what else are you going to bring back? I mean, if there are any Belgians, I'm like, is that the right word?
Yeah, I think so.
People from Belgium. If there are any listening, and I'm missing out on something that's, the hotness of Belgium. Because you've got to go back. So. Yeah, I do have to go back.
Yeah. Someone at work who we both have on Facebook said to me, is Luke going on holiday without you? I was like, no, it's just for work.
Basically, yeah. It's like a holiday, but you don't have your day to yourself. Yeah. So, but yeah. It was okay. Got loads of chocolate. That was it. But that's why we've not recorded.
Yeah, well, that does mean that we've got a lot of feedback. So I shall get going with that, if that's okay.
Yeah.
It's the silence.
How dare you?
So this is for 2 episodes ago.
Yeah. What was the episode title? No, Pineapple Day.
Pineapple Day.
Yeah.
So, Doc in Docks says, such a great episode of Law and Order Button House. Since TV remotes have directionality, Julian would have needed to pick up and point the remote when pressing the button. Because I think you said about why didn't Julian just put the telly on? In series 3, Kitty gets a balloon for her 263rd birthday. With the Catholic plot, just realised this is another example of a woman being erased from history, but I know it's not Humphrey's fault. The guests were Lords Bummenbach and Pessenpew.
That was it, yeah.
Some highlights were Mike's improvised singing, not heard since the very first 2 episodes. Daddy's gonna drill some holes, and don't be scared, don't be scared.
Daddy's gonna drill some holes is a pretty good line, to be fair.
And Fanny's approach to parenting, which was to keep the baby as far away as possible and presumably have servants look after it. I don't know how many people have noted that the opening credits have changed for this series.
What? Have they? Do you know?
5 episodes.
Right, okay, we're going to peel back the curtain a little here. I press skip intro. I need to save some time to get some more notes. And note taking takes a long time. I'm like, it's the intro.
Thanks for bringing that to our attention. We now see Mary get sucked off, and in the last shot, she is missing.
Yes, yeah, you do. Now they say that, I do remember it changing slightly. But yeah, I just...
And this is really interesting. I've also noticed for at least these first 3 episodes of the series, they have all featured alliterative phrases. Episode 1, Fanny says 2 tattoos. Episode 2, Thomas says he's as Scottish as a shortbread, Scottish as shortbread in a tartan tin. And episode 3 was Polly with the possets, Polly with the poison possets.
Okay. We'll have to watch out for that, yeah.
Yeah.
Although we've missed it in probably all of these.
Absolutely. But please tell us if they're in other episodes, because I'd be interested to know. And then Caroline says, Mike shutting the safe door. I think in his head it emphasises the look, we're just 2 blokes together conducting business.
Yeah, I get that.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I still don't feel like it was necessary, but by shutting the door, he's excluding Alison, playing to Barclay's prejudices. I think Fanny's word for courage and determination is still used in that sense in the US, and it's interesting to see that usage in the UK has increased exponentially.
Exponentially, yeah.
So bad words. It's because I'm on the spot. In the UK and in the 21st century, but I would imagine this is mainly the slang usage. The origins of the word in its original usage go as far back as the 16th century and seem to have evolved from the word spark.
Do you know what? You don't hear it that often, surprisingly, in the UK. It's quite juvenile, I'd say, in this country. You used to hear it a lot in like the In-Betweeners and stuff like that kind of comedy. Anyway.
Marianne says, I do enjoy flashback episodes, and this one is done so well. And so now we know evil Eleanor didn't kill Kitty. Not that she wouldn't have eventually, as a bold play. She still is a bitch in my book.
You're hard on Eleanor. I mean, she is, to be fair. She
is.
Yeah.
Mike and Barclay locked in the safe is great. I like Barclay a bit more after this episode. In the US Ghosts, there is a special room in their basement that is ghost proof and actually had a character trapped in there for 100 or so years. I wonder if this BBC Ghosts safe inspired our safe. We don't have wagon wheels over in the US, but if it's like a Kit Kat, I'm all for it. Better episode than last week. I'd give it an 8.5. It's nothing like a Kit Kat. Did you say it was like a Kit Kat? Because that's misleading if you did.
I don't know, possibly, but yeah, it's
not nothing like a Kit Kat.
It's kind of like a Kit Kat, but with marshmallow in it.
So if you imagine just a digestive biscuit, I don't know, a McVitie's digestive biscuit.
Yeah.
2 of them sandwiched together with marshmallow and jam in the middle, covered with chocolate.
I forget it has jam in it, yeah.
I personally detest wagon wheels and would rather starve to death than eat one. So
fair enough. I can't remember the last time I had one, to be honest. It's been so long. So long I've forgotten how to say it.
Yeah. Wagon wheel. That's the song in my head now.
Which one?
Rock me, mama, like a wagon wheel.
I've never heard that. What is that?
So I've just explained to Luke and we've played the song.
We can't play here for licensing reasons.
Yeah. Alison said, I remember going to some stately homes in England years ago and being shown wood carvings by Grinling Gibbons, who specialised in fruits and plants. We were told he often incorporated pineapples as a sign of wealth and status in society. Apparently, people could hire pineapples by the hour for functions to impress their guests. We should try that next time we have a dinner
Pineapples
party.
have a very different connotation these days.
Well,
so.
that's all. Yeah, I don't know why I said that because Alison does go on to say, more recently, a pineapple on a door, especially on cruises, has different connotations. When I saw the spider on the episode, I first thought it was a redback, but dismissed the thought because she would have experienced extreme pain and nausea, and only the very young, old, or sick would die from their bite. It might not have been a redback. That's just what I googled. So
Yeah, I mean, it looked kind of like one, but it might just be some.
the generic spider.
It's a poisonous spider, yeah. Like
it looked more orange than red.
yeah, that's what I thought.
We do have killer spiders and snakes, jellyfish, octopi, sharks, crocodiles, etc. And I love telling tourists about them, but redbacks aren't lethal. They are most notorious for hiding under the seats of outdoor toilets, where the resultant bite is both extremely painful and embarrassing. There's even a song about it. I want to know the song.
I mean, yeah, that's a
Share
YouTube
the song.
clip, yeah.
Please share the song.
I remember when we went to Australia that we saw a redback and we were like freaked out because obviously we're English people who we just don't sense danger. We just don't. We're like, oh,
Yeah.
And my auntie just came out with a bug spray, basically sprayed it to death. We're like, oh, yeah.
And then Alison also said, by the way, the other Lord was Lord Piss and Pew. Piss and Pew.
Piss and Pew, yeah.
A very schoolboy joke, and Barclay does appear again. We know now.
I know. As soon as I wrote that, I was like, made me look a mug.
Yeah, we could not forget about Fanny's bucket list.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. And then I'll try and keep in with the so then Nick so I'm just trying to keep all of the episode 33 together.
Yeah.
But I haven't, obviously, it would be too logical for my little brain to actually collect it in order. Nick said, when I first watched this, I thought it was going to turn out that Kitty is allergic to pineapple and died from anaphylactic shock. Never even crossed my mind there'd be a spider. I really enjoyed the episodes of flashbacks. So sad we're nearly at the end.
It still happens these days, doesn't it? Where like fruit can get shipped over and it's got like, I don't know, like a Brazilian wandering spider in it or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, how did that get here?
Yeah.
It's travelled all across the sea.
It's normally like, I've seen stuff most recently where people have bought stuff from websites like Shein and
and
Temu
there's like a
stuff.
scorpion in it and stuff like that,
yeah.
What do they creep into? Oh, there
I
again,
don't know.
it's-
They creep
They
anywhere,
creep
don't
everywhere,
they,
don't
really?
they?
That's,
These
they're
insects.
allowed to.
that's their job.
So now this is feedback for episode 34. So this is
En français.
en français. So Caroline said, I rewatched this episode earlier this week and boy did it have me tearing up for Robin and for Sophie and even to some extent for Humphrey. Such a sad period of all their lives, or death in Robin's case. But also a very funny episode, of course. Caroline's research hub, the origins of the phrase the big cheese is uncertain, but it's thought to come from the Urdu word chiz, meaning essentially thing.
Okay, fair enough.
One of those things that picked up by the British in India and then altered to make sense to an English ear. Concerning Robin knowing the French for train station, my explanation is that once he was fluent in French, he'd be interested in picking up any new vocabulary that came his way. So if anyone French-speaking came to stay in the house, he would enjoy listening into what they had to say. At the end of the episode, he says that his Russian is a bit rusty, implying that he had more chance to practice his French over the years than his Russian. So a later 19th or 20th century visitor could have easily have discussed the railway system.
Yeah, true.
Very true, very true. Although Sophie refused to speak English with Humphrey, in the Bone plot a few years later on, we see her talking a fairly fluent English with one of her co-conspirators. Clearly, this is not just a device so we can follow her, as the other plotters are obviously English and speaking English. If they were all meant to be speaking French, then everyone would have had a French accent. I wonder. Oh, sorry.
True. No.
I wonder if once her nursemaid is no longer there, she had been rather forced to communicate in English more, as there is no one else to speak French with. I think Mike is often overlooked as a character because of his lack of interactions with the ghosts, but he contributes a huge amount to each episode, and Kyle does a brilliant job every time. Robin is always my favourite though, and this is a great episode for his character, as we see more and more of his inner life (brackets or death) and see how complex and intelligent he is when you look beyond the whole caveman simplicity. The IMDb score for this episode, I wonder if the whole British game show element of this episode isn't as funny if you haven't grown up watching these iconic shows.
True.
Very true.
Yeah. Because they are like, I wonder how well they translate. But saying that, like, I mean, Blankety Blank is like pretty universal. Mastermind is just a quiz.
Yeah.
Very classic quiz.
Yeah.
What was the other one? Bullseye, but they never get to that.
No.
Anyway.
Marianne said, I hope someone goes to Comic-Con and includes the actors into this lovely podcast.
Well, yeah.
Let us know if you do. It's tomorrow.
It's
Friday,
yeah.
as we're recording. It's
Yes,
Friday today, so... Then Marianne said, my last meal, probably paneer, tikka masala and garlic naan. That sounds lovely. I could just eat that right now. Although Luke's suggestion of a world buffet is great. Such a good episode. English game show references aside, brackets totally eluded me as a Yank. Mike and his shaky French speaking reminds me of my trying to throw a little Spanish to my Mexican restaurant waiter. Always funny and awkward. It's
I can't remember if I said last time when we were saying we went to Disneyland Paris. We went with somebody who was trying to like be polite and speak in French.
Yeah.
And
it just gets confusing.
It threw them off every time because then they would reply in French and then he would have to go, I don't understand. Then he'd have to revert back.
We were saying to my mum the other day about how she just speaks slowly and puts on a French accent. She's like, the candle or the... I don't know, Mum. The Ghost podcast is with the Captain Humphrey and Robin. Oh, the Ghost podcast with the Captain Humphrey and Robin is so funny. I can only imagine just how bored you must get after eternity stares you in the face, and learning another language would at least be a distraction. Finding out Robin is multilingual is perfection. Great subplots in this one. Agree with Tash, Mike is a really strong character. This is mirrored in our US ghosts. The ghostless husband role is underrated on both sides of the pond. I'd give this episode a 9.
I think, without going too much into this week's episode, but I feel like there's a lot from Mike in this episode as well.
Yeah.
Which definitely cements that. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah. Then, Doc and Doc says, my last meal would be, a bar me.
I think it's I want to say it's like Vietnamese.
With plenty of fresh chili or a Vietnamese salad with lots of herbs. For the French translations, Pat was trying word for word with Dark Horse, but Robin knew in French the adjective is usually after the noun, with cheval sombre.
Yeah. Cheval, I think it is.
Cheval. I'm
bad as
such
me,
a
we're
Del
more
boy.
wines.
Cheval sombre. Although it's difficult for slang terms, since I looked up big cheese is a gros bonnet. Gross bonnet is what it says, but I'm sure there's an accent somewhere there in French. I think Mike has at least one strong storyline in each series, such as the insurance agent, and is useful, although in highlighting the weirdness of a whole situation and him wanting to be more involved in his wife's world. I'm glad you noted that Garion the translator had some fault in the situation and acts as an agent of chaos. I've spent too many hours pondering how long the Catholic plot had been planned since Sophie was fluent in English by that time. Was the whole marriage made to set it in motion? And I did think that too, like, because it was obviously an arranged marriage. Was that maybe her parent? I don't know.
Possibly, yeah.
Her maid didn't seem to speak English. I love the ghosts being chaotic with the game shows, most of which I recognised. Although in Australia, it was Family Feud rather than Family Fortunes.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
I'm going to have to fight Luke on Pointless. It is the far superior show.
I don't know why, I just don't click with it. I just don't know what it is. I just like getting points.
Alison says, putting words in Alison's mouth. I really enjoyed this episode. Maybe the lower IMDb score was to do with the unfamiliarity with the British game shows from some people. In Australia, we had our own version of Blankety Blanks, which was full of smut and innuendo.
Pretty much the same here.
Yeah.
It was done by, when we were growing up, it was Lily Savage that hosted it, so, yeah, very smutty.
Yeah. Fanny would have... brackets pretended to be horrified, and the captain would have understood the jokes. We all have our own mastermind and Pointless, though the latter isn't as good.
Uh-oh. We're gonna divide here on Pointless.
I felt sorry for Humphrey, Sophie and Robin in this episode. All very sad lives, especially for Sophie once her nanny had died. She reminds me of Nursey in Blackadder for some reason.
Yeah, she does. She does look like, yeah, no, you said that. I didn't put it, but yeah, she does actually seem a lot like her.
And Robin being so lonely that he had to settle for a one-way friendship, him wanting to comfort her and being unable to was heart-wrenching. And then Nick said, in my rewatch, I've really grown to like Humphrey. He's very funny, and of course he's a bit hopeless. He could have easily tried to learn a bit of French, but he's a typical lazy Englishman.
True. It's true.
But also, I do think he's actually quite sweet. And Robin surprising us all with his excellent grasp of the French language. Such a good episode. And then comes next week. No spoilers, but get your tissues ready. I think we're just about prepared.
I'll be honest, this episode caught me off guard because I thought it was the one afterwards.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Interesting.
So that concludes the extensive feedback because obviously it was doubled up.
Oh, no, yeah.
But shall we get on with the episode?
This week we are looking at Carpe Diem, which is Latin for seize the day. I don't know if that's the exact translation of it, but I think that's what it roughly means anyway. Which is episode 5 of series 5. Directed by Simon Hind. Written every time I have to come to his name, I'm like, my brain is like, is it definitely Hind? Written by Lawrence Rickard and Ben Willibond. So again, another one of these.
Willibond.
I've done it again. Honestly. 34
episodes. 35 including this one, and you still can't get it down.
I genuinely think it's because like the red like where the squiggly line underneath where it says that you've not spelt it right.
Yeah.
I feel like that messes with my eyes and I see an extra I.
No excuse, Luke.
Yeah, it was written by both of those, and they wrote last week's episode as well. So again, it's another double pairing of writing. I don't know if it was planned that way or if it's just ended up that way. And the original air date was the 3rd of November, 2023. So that's... I looked at my watch then. It's just over a year ago, basically. Mm-hmm. So we see the ghosts all watching Pat demonstrating how to line dance. To the Achy Breaky Heart by Billy Ray Cyrus. Do you line dance to any other song? I've never ever seen a line dance to
my mum goes line dancing every Wednesday.
She does, yeah.
So,
yeah.
She has shown me some of the
Do they just do Achy Breaky Heart on loop?
No.
That's all I ever remember. Like a brief flash into my past. I did line dancing briefly when I was a child, like when I was like 6. Yeah, yeah. And all I ever remember was Billy Ray Cyrus and dancing to that as well. So I feel like that's the line dance song basically.
Oh yeah.
Robin comes in and says it's their anniversary. Basically, it's the 25th, and this is when Annie was.
No, I think it was 25 years.
25 years.
Oh no, it can't have been.
Yeah, I was going to say it can't be 25 years.
Well, could it have been 25 years?
No, because that'd have been like.
Oh, because not all of them met Annie, did they?
Yeah, not all of them met.
Yeah. I've written 25 years.
I just put it's the 25th, so I thought it was like that day of that month.
Yeah.
But the ghosts just don't seem interested in this. They're like not bothered, and this starts this theme throughout the episode. I think this is the kind of start of it, of their place and their remembrance in the world. If they're already not bothered about Annie and already forgetting about Annie, what's to say that they're not going to be forgotten at some point? Quite a very legitimate fear for a ghost or a living person, I suppose. Like, is their like legacy, I suppose. But Robin, as everyone doesn't seem interested, walks away, and I like how he walks through the wall. That like kind of where it pans across and into the next room as like it's a seamless thing. Obviously, he's not actually walked through the wall, but you know he has. And we see him watching a documentary that's playing about a comet reappearing and how they've been able to predict it coming back around again. I like that they just leave TVs on for the ghosts to just like in just a random room really at this point. Robin starts to see maths, or as he calls it, math, floating around his head. It's very the Hangover, this bit where Alan does his card
calculations.
Yeah. We also see pictures of ghosts that have left in this, because I paused it quite a few times to see if we saw anything. So we see Annie and Mary like flying off, and I think one that looks kind of like William. They're all chuckling at Pat, but he says that it'll look good when they all do it together. And Robin then runs back in, and he says that he can now predict when people will move on. And he said he's predicted that one of them will move on today.
I like how it goes, woof.
Yeah. And then, we get the intro. We come back from the intro, and we all see that they're disagreeing with Robin. He says that it's all complicated.
Says he's done the math.
Yeah, he has done it. Yeah, we've seen that he's done it. But he says it's complicated. He says, but there is a sequence between. He calls her Lisbeth. I don't know if he means Elizabeth or if she's actually called Lisbeth. Lisbeth, William, Annie, and Mary, and there's like a connecting thread between them all. Yeah. Kitty's quite excited that she might actually move on to this next layer, and obviously she thinks that there's 10 layers or whatever that she has to go through.
You kind of get the impression that, well, I mean, apart from Kitty, because she thinks that there's all these multiple layers, but I don't think they want to leave.
No.
I think it's kind of like they died, and you kind of get used to this thought through life that one day you're going to die, and then you go for the ghosts anyway. They've gone on to the next life realm. I don't know what you want to call it. And now they're kind of having to do that again. Yeah, basically. Of getting used to dying or moving somewhere else. They don't know what's next. It's that unknown, isn't it? Like, I think that's the scary part, is always like, what is next? Like, and they have no idea. I kind of think as well that they don't want to leave. They enjoy their time at Button House. That's true, yeah. They've got It's kind of a bit of both, really, isn't it? They like being there, but also it's the unknown of dying again. Yeah, basically. Although I'd be a bit more positive on their passing on, because you do see, at least when you're a ghost, you see other ghosts fly up and off. Yeah. So there's like, okay, they're going somewhere. The captain and all the others think that this is complete hogwash. They
they don't believe that this is a thing. They all leave, and Pat says, "Okay, we'll call it a day for now, and we'll do this all again at 5." So they've got more line dancing practice to do, or he thinks so anyway. Barkley's back, and this is where I put it in brackets, egg on my face. And he has a box of baby stuff to donate to the Coopers. Alison thanks him, and he says he has some other bits as well to leave them, and we see that he's bought an entire truck full of kids' stuff. So he's still a bit of a shit, let's be frank.
Have you just sworn again?
That's fine. That one's okay.
Oh, that is not fine. I don't think we've sworn before. Maybe we have.
We've got explicit in this one. But yeah, we see that he's brought an entire truck full. He's just clearing out his junk.
Absolutely.
He's not doing this for their benefit, really. And he says he'll just leave all that there and he'll be back later with the rest. So he's even got more to dump on them, basically. We see Julian and Fanny are talking. They don't believe in Robin's, as Julian calls it, caveman maths. He says it really takes the, and I've put it phonetically here so I can see how he says it, busket, as he says biscuit. I've never heard anyone describe it as like this, but that's Julian. Fanny says that if it were true, then she wouldn't be spending her last day learning how to line dance.
I mean, we can understand.
I get that, yeah. And Julian says that he would be going through his, as he coins it, already kicked the bucket list. So obviously they can't do everything that you would on a normal bucket list, but you have like.
Why do they call it a bucket list?
I don't know. Well, you just say kick the bucket.
But why do you say kick the bucket?
I don't know where that comes from. Yeah, there's probably some origin behind that one.
Say.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know.
Live Googling going on.
This is where he explains what a bucket list is to Fanny. Obviously, she doesn't know the concept.
16th century.
Okay.
It's thought to come from the old French word bouquet,
okay.
which refers to a wooden frame or beam used to hang animals by their feet for slaughter.
That's pretty grim.
That's terrible. I'm really sorry for putting that out there now.
Yep. Absolutely slammed the good vibes.
It says kick the bucket is an informal and casual way to describe death, often used in humorous contexts.
Don't think the animals
for
would
example,
agree.
all the money goes to her when the old man kicks the bucket. Some synonyms for kick the bucket include to pass away, to expire, to depart this life.
Oh, well, okay.
Well, there we go.
Yeah. If you need some ways to say delicately that somebody died, or less delicately, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, he explains to Fanny what a bucket list is. He says that you could go skinny dipping, which she doesn't seem a fan of, but things change. We'll see later. Yeah. Go on a motorbike or go bungee jumping. These are like common bucket list items, I suppose. Fanny says that she knows exactly what Julian's bucket list would entail, which, I mean, anyone could predict what Julian's bucket list. He basically says he'd like to go out the way he went it last time, essentially. And this is where he starts thinking about a potential, I just put potential lover, that he could fulfill this bucket list item with. And he actually starts looking at Fanny and the music starts playing. And this
like, we're not going to have another Humphrey situation, are we?
Yeah, not again. That's what I thought. I was like, well, you never know. She went with Humphrey. Maybe she see past Julian's smutty.
No trousers.
But yeah. I don't think that would work though. He leaves the room flustered at this point. I don't know if he's ashamed that he thought about it, or I don't know what exactly he's thinking there. Elsewhere, we see Mike is excited about his friends going to Ibiza until he realises that they're having a baby, so they can't. In his words, I will not be going large in Ibiza, Gregory. And they start to realise at this point that life's going to change, but they start assuring each other that they're still going to be themselves no matter what changes. They'll just be more mature and more settled, is what they say, and then they both agree that sounds pretty depressing. Alison says that they should have a big night out before they have the baby, but obviously she can't drink, so she says that Mike will be getting wrecked for both of them. And they say they'll get the gang together. I feel like every 30-year-old has at some point thought that they need a big night out.
I've not.
You know, which is... Yeah.
It's because I, quite frankly, went too hard when I was younger and now don't drink.
Yeah, you burnt yourself out, I've done it. And then you go out on your big night out and go, I don't need another one of these.
Where are all these children here?
Yeah,
Why are all these children?
Literally, the last time we went out, my friend said, this is like, he says, I feel like I'm at like a school. He says like the age difference is like vast at the moment. So yeah, it was not a good time, to be honest. They decide they're going to get the gang together anyway for this. Kitty comes to, and I've just called it the rehearsal room. I'm not sure exactly what room it is, but this is where they're doing their rehearsals. She asks Humphrey if he's here for the rehearsals, and he says it's not really my thing, dancing.
She says no rhythm, and he's like, no legs.
Yeah. And Kitty thinks that maybe Humphrey could be the one who's going to move on, but obviously he's in two parts. If he's separated, maybe they'll one will go and the other one will stay.
It's a very good point, to be honest.
Yeah, they don't know the logistics of this. So she picks him up and says that she's going to find his body. She says, I can make you whole again, and then chuckles and says, Atomic Kitten. I like a pun later, even better.
So good. Do you know what the funny thing is? I forgot that she makes that pun. And I made that pun in my head, and I was like, that is good. I can't wait to tell the listeners of the podcast that. And then she said it, and I was like, it must have been subconsciously in my brain somewhere.
Yeah. Pat enters just as she leaves and is annoyed that she's leaving rehearsals. This is where we see the captain and Thomas both arrive. He says it's not even a full line at this point. I forgot what he says. He says it's a hyphen, isn't it, or something like that. And he said they can't do it as well without Julian because they need Julian to play the music. And Thomas then quotes his own poem. I can't remember the full line of what he says, but he quotes it as though he's expecting them to finish it off, and they pretend that they remember what this is from. To which Pat says it's an absolute classic, isn't it? just trying to just palm him off, basically. And then this is where Thomas gets really annoyed that they don't actually know the poem because he's waiting for them to recite the last line or the next line, and they don't. And he says he's recited it to them hundreds of times, and they both remember, funnily enough, how many times he's recited it, because he said the captain says it's 138 times that he's read it to them. If it's as long as they talk about as well, that's a lot of time that you've wasted. Well, that seems harsh. Used up, let's say.
I'm not going to try and work out how long in years that would have been for them.
Yeah, I can't remember how long the poem itself is, but it was quite long if I remember. And he gets very upset about this, that his work's not going to be remembered, not even by his closest friends at this point. Pat thinks that Robin's words have got to everyone, at odds. And
I put that said got everyone at 6s and 7s.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Because I looked at where that came from. We're all about the sayings.
Yeah.
And apparently it's William Shakespeare uses a similar phrase. No. It dates to the mid-1380s and seems from its context to mean to hazard the world or to risk one's life. William Shakespeare used a similar phrase in Richard II around 1595, but time will not permit, all is uneven, but everything is left at 6 and 7.
To be honest, there's so many quotes that come from Shakespeare. There's that many. You could probably... I think there's just words, quotes and everything that's come from William Shakespeare, so... Imagine, being so influential to a language that you've
I
just
know.
come up with so much. You know what I mean? It is crazy.
And to not know.
Yeah.
Sad, really. Unless he's a ghost.
Well, that's true.
Where are you, William?
Not here, be Stratford.
Oh, yeah, true.
If they're following ghost rules, anyway.
Well, yeah, exactly.
He'd know now, to be honest, because he'd literally be seeing Stratford just packed every weekend.
Be like, God, can't get into B&M. Always busy.
Is there a B&M in Stratford? Probably. I don't know.
Probably. There's a B&M everywhere.
That's true. Have you ever been to Stratford?
No, you have, though, because you tell me all the time.
It's just busy all the time. It's like a town that's not built for the amount of people
Yeah,
that go
the
to.
infrastructure's
Yeah,
just not there.
it's way too busy. Anyway, so they say, everyone's at odds at this, and Pat and the captain say that they don't really believe it, but it's quite clear that they are shaken by this fact that they might move on. Mike and Alison call their friends, and we get this kind of split scene where they're both on the phone, and it seems quite positive until they hang up, and we both realise that no one can actually make this. Mike suggests that they move it to next week, but Alison says that they can't plan their spontaneity.
Can't plan a spontaneous night out.
That is true. And as I've mentioned, my glasses fell off and now I'm struggling to pick them up. This has gone off the rails, this episode. As any person in their 30s knows, again, the frustration of trying to organise a group of friends who are also in their 30s, who are never, ever free anymore. Like, I am also as bad for that, so, it's just difficult when you get older. It's just difficult. But they say that Obi and his new girlfriend's coming, so it's still going to be a good time, If you've got Obi, they say you've still got a party. Julian stumbles upon Kitty as she's walking around with Humphrey, and he tries to work out if that would be a good match. He says half your age plus 7. 100% a good call to abandon that thought, because that is just the worst thing I could possibly imagine is Julian trying to hit on Kitty. Although he does hit on Kitty's it's not Kitty, it's Lolly's other character later on.
Yeah.
So, he's he's
just a creep,
be a bit of a creep, isn't he? Yeah. I wonder, do they, obviously we know that they're the same actors playing these roles. In the universe, do they acknowledge that they look very similar to them, or is it just something we just forget about? He's starting to run out of options, and at this point he starts looking towards the basement and at the plague ghosts. We see Mike and Alison getting ready to go out. Fanny walks in and asks Alison what a bungee jump is. And she explains she doesn't seem too keen on this. She says that she's done enough of this, basically jumping out of the window every night. And then as she walks away, she asks Alison if a lipstick is an experiment. Just the meanest thing you could say. Somebody who's just getting ready. It's just so barbed, you know what I mean? It's just so mean, unnecessarily mean. But yeah, anyway, that's funny, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Mike comes out of the shower playing some music as they're getting in the going out mood. Downstairs, we see the plague ghosts all dancing to the music as Julian is trying to chat up. I had to Google the names, but he's chatting up Maud, who is Martha's plague ghost character.
It's like a sleazy club, isn't it?
They're all kind of just dancing. It is like a club, and then he's trying to chat them up.
And shout as well, shouting.
He's trying to explain how many millions he was worth, which, as a ghost, is possibly the worst chat line possible, as it literally means nothing anymore. She's not interested because she can't even count that high. So he moves over to Agnes, who is Lolly's plague character, and he asks her how high she can count. She says up to 10. He says close enough. So yeah, he's just using the same tactic again, basically. Upstairs, we see Kitty find Humphrey's body, and Humphrey says you need to be careful, as his body can be quite skittish, and she approaches his body like it's an animal, or like like a dog.
Okay,
or something.
come on. You're okay. Good girl.
She,
Good boy.
Yeah. She corners him, and he says, "Don't corner him." But as doing that, he managed to run. How do you corner a ghost? Because surely you can run,
through you,
or through the wall, or anywhere, I suppose. But he runs away.
Some people just don't know what's good for them, do they?
They don't know, so they go chasing after him, and this chase continues, as we see later on. The captain finds Robin on the stairs, and he says that Patrick is in a tiz about no one being there for the rehearsals. Robin says that he's just saying goodbye to his mouse family. He says they're called Snuffles, Maisie, and Graham Souness.
See, I didn't get... Who's that?
He's a Scottish football.
Oh. Oh, that went right over my head.
It's just the calling a mouse Graham Souness is just pretty funny.
Well, especially when the other two are called Snuffles and Maisie.
Exactly. The captain asks if he genuinely believes this theory, and he does, and he asks if he's worried about moving on, and Robin says that he's not. He's ready to move on if it is his time, but he says that it might not be him, it could be anybody. We cut to the lake, and we see Fanny stepping up to the lake, and she disrobes. Now, I'd forgotten this part where Fanny has unbelievably long hair.
Yes.
I didn't realise as well that this is a joke from earlier, that Julian says that she needs to let her hair down, and I didn't realise it would be a literal she let her hair down. As she attempts to jump in, so obviously he's trying skinny dipping, she tries to jump in, but her clothes reappear on her, as we see with ghosts. And she gives up on that one and leaves, and in the background we see Kitty chasing Humphrey across the grounds. We see Pat and Thomas in the library.
Thomas? Mate? Are you coming back to the line dancing?
Look at them all, surviving the ages, standing erect in their leather jackets, shoulder to shoulder, looking down on me with their smug little eyes. And A's and E's and O's and U's and all the consonants.
Yeah, well, you know.
Your work might not be up there with that lot.
But you'll always be remembered in this house, mate. We all love your stuff.
It's kind of you to say, Pat, but let's be honest, none of you remember a word of it.
Home is not the walls or the gardens. Home is the souls within those walls. Home is the memories made on this spot.
That's Fanny's poem. I'm not even the best poet in this house.
Yeah, like Thomas being very teenage in this part. Fanny returns from her attempt at trying to skinny dip, and she sees Barclay. She doesn't like him either. She pulls her face as soon as she hears him. Although she sees the quad bike and gets an idea. And for the return journey, she decides to sit on the back with Barclay. And we see as he's driving back, her sitting in the back with her hair free flowing in the wind. Just an interesting visual, I suppose. We see Mike and Alison go to a bar, a really weird bar because it was incredibly loud but also very quiet in the fact that there was barely anybody in this bar. I always find this weird whenever they do bar scenes or like club scenes in like TV. They're always like the most unpopulated bars in the world.
I think it's because it was early. They'd gone out early.
Possibly, yeah. That's a point. Yeah. I'm always shocked at that when I'm like, why is it so empty in here? And it's like, yeah, it doesn't get busy till 12 o'clock. And I'm like, 12 o'clock.
It's bedtime. Be gone by then. Be having a kebab in the taxi.
So Mike goes up to the bar and he's drinking for two, quite literally, as they order 2 tequilas, and he has to drink them both.
Water.
Yeah, and a water. Yeah. Obi and his new girlfriend arrives. His girlfriend called Brenda, which they query her name about 3 times. I
don't know why.
I don't know if they're trying to say like apologies to any apologies to any Brendas out there who may be listening, but I wonder if it is like not a cool and hip name, Brenda.
I like the name. I guess it's just more associated with old.
Yeah. And Obi and his girlfriend order wines, and they start asking about what wine they have, which is much to the Coopers' dismay, as they're expecting them to get some shots. Alison orders some more tequila, which Mike is a bit taken aback by because it's not even drunk the ones that they've ordered. Back at the house, we see the captain brooding out of the window. And this is where I realised what episode this was. Because I was like, oh, I thought this was like in its own separate episode. But we see this kind of very short memory from his past, which appears to be quite painful for him, and he kind of pushes it away as soon as he starts thinking about it. Pat arrives for line dancing, but nobody else is there. And he says that it only works if we're all together, which again seems like a key line
definitely.
from them. We see... Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, why does he always put on an American accent?
Well, we find out, don't we?
Why?
That's his fear response.
Yeah, I know, but like, why is that his fear response?
I don't know. People do weird things, don't they, when they're scared, I guess. We see Humphrey. It's Humphrey's head. Humphrey's body. I put Humphrey's head, but it's quite clearly not his head. We see his body wandering around the library as Alison... Sorry, not Alison. My notes are all over the place today. As Kitty is waiting, sort of out of sight. It's quite like like an action film where she was waiting to pounce on him, and then as she does, she pounces, pins him down, and then tries to reattach his head. And it seems to work. It clicks back on, and his complete body is all there now, and walks away. And she says she did make him whole again, and this is what she says. Atomic Kitty.
So great.
It is a good line, to be fair. We go back to the bar, and Alison is trying to talk to Obi, but can't hear. And she says, it never used to be this loud in here. And he says, I think it always did. Again, another thing you realise in your 30s. Don't like loud places. I like to sit outside and talk.
I like it silence.
Yeah. Quiet, yeah.
Very quiet music, if necessary, but otherwise complete silence.
I know, yeah. This is... If anybody's listening who's a lot younger, you'll be like, what? You don't like it like this? Wait till you get to in your 30s. 30s or 40s, and that's it. You're like, oh, I can't deal with this anymore. Or you try to, and then you're tricking yourself.
And then it takes you 3 business days to get back
yeah.
Get back together again.
As Mike is going to find out tomorrow. So Alison suggests that maybe they just go dance instead. But Obi says that they might actually just leave. They've got an early start in the morning. They said they're going to IKEA and they've got a bank manager's meeting. So this is where Alison makes a bit of a faux pas where she says that bank managers are boring. This is where we find out Brenda is a bank manager. And that's why she's got bank manager meetings. And they all notice that Mike has been gone for drinks for quite a long time at this point. And this is where we cut to the toilet and we see a bouncer outside of a toilet door and he forces it open and we find Mike sat on the toilet having a bit of a nap. And the bouncer says that this is the saddest thing he's seen in 9 years doing it. He tells him to go home. And Mike asks what time it is. He says it's 11:10. And he says, what happened to me? And he said, you got old, mate. Which is the single most cutting thing you can that can be said to you when you're trying to be young, I suppose. And we come back to the house, and this is where we see Pat and the captain.
I think I skipped on my notes.
Why?
Because when I said, about him putting on an American accent.
Oh, okay.
I thought we were at this point.
Part,
I got confused.
The Pat, I was going to say the Pat and the captain.
The Pat.
Pat and the captain are in the rehearsal room and they're talking about everything that's been going on today.
Can't sleep.
Too much energy. Not enough dancing.
You're not worried then about what Robin said?
Oh, no, sirree. I ain't worried an incidental bit.
Right, it's just you keep slipping into an American accent, Pat.
Hell no. No, sirree. Oh, my God, I do. I haven't done that since I were in the queue for Black Hole at Alton Towers. Carol thought I was having a stroke. It's my fear response, apparently. I don't know, mate. What if he's right? I mean, I don't know the rules to all this. None of us do. But if one of us is going to go today, and there's only 18 minutes of today left, and, well, do you want to know something? I'm scared.
Me too. Tried to dismiss it, but some part of me must believe it. I mean, I've considered some pretty desperate things today.
Yes, I too have found myself musing on mortality.
Oh, yeah? What have you been up to?
Oh, just thinking about the Bible.
You're awake too. Good. I wanted to say sorry, Pat, about earlier. It's just so very hard knowing I leave no legacy when I go.
Oh, Thomas, we might not remember your poems, but we'd remember you.
Not so tight on the arm all day.
Sorry.
Well. We got there in the end, eh? Can't argue with the mouth.
Everyone back together, all ready for the off. And speaking of back together...
Ta-da! Oh, thank
There he is.
thank you. Oh, damn it! I got it.
It is nice to be together again at last. It's funny, this is all I wanted, really. When I died, I didn't get to be surrounded by the people I loved, but now, well, I'm ready.
Yes. Well, no. Actually, if this is it for me, then, well, there's something I have to tell you. Where to begin?
Is the black hole still at Alton Towers? I don't think it's still there, is it? Is it Oblivion now?
I haven't got a clue.
Yeah, I don't know if he mentions he did his American accent when he was waiting in the queue for that as well. But yeah, I don't know if it's still there. But yeah, you can tell that there's clearly something pressing. That they're worried about. Them passing on and whatnot. And yeah, we start this flashback from the captain. And it flashes back to 1945, so this is after the war now, or, just after the war's ended. We see Button House is all adorned in VE attire. Is attire right for a house? It's usually clothes in it, but yeah. The captain says he was posted somewhere else since 1944, so he's not been back to Button House since that time. But he says he's returned for an event at Button House. He's not allowed in, though, because he was not a decorated officer, so somebody who's frontline officer, basically. We do see the ghosts in the background, or the ghosts that would have been there at the time. So we see, like, Mary at the back of Mary, which I imagine is probably...
Wasn't Mary, yeah.
And the captain says that he had to sneak in, so not his most proud moment. And to fit in, he sees that some I don't know if it's a rank or I don't know what they are. They're like do you know the colours that they wear on the chest?
Yeah, I don't know what the colours are.
It's not like ranks, is it? It's kind of like a medal, but not a medal, like kind of thing. I'm not sure, but anyway, this sort of shows that you've been part of like a campaign or part of a battle or whatever. So with this sort of these badges to sort of fit in, he goes into the main room and he sees Havers and smiles. And as he walks forward, he bumps into somebody who recognises him from his time at Button House. He calls him the captain at this point. Somebody must have taught. This guy looked really familiar. He's in something, but I cannot for the life of me put my finger on exactly what he's in. It's another comedy show or something like this. Oh, it's... he's in a program with Pat. What's the actor's name?
Jim Howick.
Jim Howick. Here we go. Do you know his brother or her brother? I can't remember.
I'm just having a look on IMDb, to be honest.
Yeah. I've just remembered who.
Oh
it was.
yes, yeah.
He's in
Tom Basden.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he's in Afterlife as well, the Ricky Gervais program.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. Anyway, he bumps into him, and he remembers him obviously from his time there and knows he was a sort of officer who didn't really go out there, and he's surprised that he sees all the badges that he has, and he questions where he was actually posted, but he gets caught out in this lie because he claims he was at Versailles, which is where this guy was based as well, and he doesn't remember that he was there. So this is when he starts getting upset and angry at him. Starts accusing him of, I don't know if the term was the thing back then, but they call it stolen valor now, don't they? So everybody's shouting at him. He's trying to plead his case, but obviously he knows he's done wrong. And the stress of it all...
I don't think that's not what he wanted, though.
No, definitely not.
Like, do you know what I mean? It was literally just to be able to get in there.
He just wanted to see Havers.
Yeah,
that's
100%.
literally all he wanted.
And I think it's really frustrating as like a viewer, I suppose, because you're like, no, like that's not. He wasn't doing that. It's frustrating.
But the stress of this situation is all too much, and he starts to collapse, clutching his chest. And at this point, Havers runs over to him as they all watch on.
Sir! Huh? Well, fetch a medic.
I'm sorry. I had to find you.
I'm here.
Anthony. James.
So quite a revealing scene, as we learn a lot of things about the captain at this point.
If nothing else, his name.
His name, is James. We learn that his cane wasn't his; it's Havers' cane, because he gives it to him as he's like sort of passing. And Havers says that he knows, and I feel like that's an acknowledgement of love between the two of them,
definitely.
without saying as much.
I've got goosebumps even like talking about it. Like it's just it makes me even now. I'm like welling up.
It really crept up on me, to be honest, because it was. I genuinely thought it had its own episode in there, but
I feel like the way I remembered it was like you know when he's like going through the house and getting the colours off the jacket.
Yeah,
I felt like it was almost like. Do you remember that repetitive flashback that we had with Thomas?
Yeah,
where it was like we kept seeing the same thing, but ever such slightly differences from someone else's point of view.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought that it was an episode like that, as you say, like completely on its own. I
forgot it was
this one. Yeah.
And also with what happens afterwards as well, it's like so much packed into
definitely.
in the end of this episode.
Right at the end as well, it's kind of like la 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 la.
That's I mean, I'll go into my overall thoughts, but I felt like that, especially towards the end. But and then as we heard, the captain dies on the floor. He claims that he was no hero, but Fanny says that he was an incredibly brave man.
Yeah, she says perhaps, but you were a brave man.
Yeah,
which I think is a lot coming from her.
Yeah, especially because she was so against like what her husband was doing and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So
same-sex relationships.
Yeah. She was like so morally against that in a previous episode, but now she would have seen this as well, I would imagine, like happen. Like, she was there, one of the ghosts was there. The clock, the ghosts all agree, and then the clock chimes 12, so they all prepare themselves for one of them to disappear. They all look around, and then the clock stops chiming, and no one is left. They all turn towards Robin and look at him, and he says, maybe I got my calculations wrong. It could be tomorrow. And this is where they all get annoyed and just realise they've got upset about nothing, really.
I think for the captain to share what he shared with the other ghosts, he must have really thought that it was going to be him.
Yeah.
He that must have been really difficult for him to open up that much for. I don't know, because now he's laid everything out to them all, and he's obviously a very private person. You know, he's probably thinking, oh God, why did I do that? Because now I'm going to have to, you know, but the ghosts are so, I can't imagine, obviously, I know they're not real people, but like, you know, when the cameras are off, like I can't imagine them like questioning him about it. Like it was just like, okay, you shared that with us, and now that's fine. We're not going to mention it again or like make you feel uncomfortable. So it's I
guess it's extra sad as well because it's somebody who never ever got to, and I mean this is probably a story that, you know, in the 40s was quite common. It's somebody who never got to live what they wanted of their life, you know what I mean? So it's just really sad.
Really sad.
But yeah, so no one goes, and they're all a bit annoyed at Robin that they've, you know, I wouldn't say wasted.
Had a stressful day.
Yeah, exactly. Got worried over nothing. And Pat says, well, they are all together, implying that they can maybe do their line dancing. And Mike and Alison return home, and they say it wasn't a perfect night out. And Mike gets incredibly philosophical in this part, as Alison even says that he's quite wise. He says that you can't recreate a good time; it just happens. Alison's annoyed, and she says that they couldn't recreate it. And this is Mike says there'll be more magic, but it's the three of them. And then I wrote down his entire quote here because it's an incredibly wise quote. Says there'll be more magic. I know it won't be the same once there's the three of us, but we're going to have the best time. We're going to have the best times, loads of them, and I don't know what they will be or when they will happen, but isn't that the joy of it? So yeah, just very, very poignant. He says he's only wise because he's had a lot of tequila. Does tequila make you wise?
No, it makes me violent.
And then they both hear Achy Breaky Heart playing upstairs. They go up to see what is happening, and Alison sees all of the ghosts line dancing. Now, I mean, I can't describe line dancing to you or this scene, really, and I'm not going to include the clip because that, again, it's very visual. But it is a sight to behold. They all laugh. Alison laughs at what she's seeing. I imagine Mike must be weirded out that there's just Achy Breaky Heart playing. And they join in. And I put in a quote here, why is this making me tear up? And as they're all doing this line dancing routine.
I think it's because it's like, it's something that everyone, Ghosts, Mike and Alison are all doing together, which never happens because normally Mike wouldn't just...
He'd be excluded because he can't join in. Yeah.
And also, it brings it back that we're so close to the end. I'm starting to cry now. I think we're just so close to the end. And like, we know that. Like, we've got 2 episodes left, but we've got 1 episode of like of this series. And yeah, it just is emotional. Like, it's just...
I can't. There's bits. The last series I've got the least memory of because I don't know if we watched the others twice and the last series.
This is my second watch. Of I think I've watched all of them twice.
But I can't remember much of the last episode. This one feels more like it could have been the last episode. If they never did the last 2, this could have been like the end of them. Just there's many adventure for them to have. But
that's it. It's it just feels. I think it's almost like, and this is kind of what this show does really well, is it has these like really hard hitting moments. And then like, for example, when Mary left, it was like, boom, she's gone. Like, that's it, she's gone. Like grief, like death, like real death. And with this, and especially with this scene, I kind of felt a little bit... why am I crying? I kind of felt like they were almost preparing us...
For the end,
For that end.
Yeah.
And, it's just, I don't know why I'm crying. I really don't know why I'm crying, because I'm not watching it right now. I think it's emotional to talk about. And it's emotional because I think... aside from completely separate to like Ghosts as a TV show, I'm feeling emotional because we're coming to the end of something that's been like an entire year of our lives.
Basically, yeah.
Which is really difficult because it has. I never anticipated that this would last like. Well, no, I anticipated we'd do the whole thing, but I didn't realise it would be from like the 1st of January to the end of December. Like it's worked really well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I find it quite emotional that like we're coming to the end of this as well. So it's just a bit all over the place. But
there's a lot to take from this. I mean, there's still a tiny bit left right at the end here. So obviously they're all dancing. And then we see Agnes appear and asks if her and Julian are still on. So Julian slinks off from the group. She says that she warns him that she's riddled with plague, and he says, "You only live once. Christ knows what I've got." As they disappear, we see Alison and Mike dancing. So I like this bit because we see just them two dancing without the ghosts, and then it cuts and we see, or it changes camera angle, and we see all of the ghosts in the scene as well. We get it from both Mike and Alison's perspective.
Definitely.
And yeah, that's how the episode ends, with Achy Break Your Heart playing over the credits. So what did you think?
Just a really good episode.
Yeah.
I think I'm not... it's really difficult because for the first 20 minutes, I was like, okay, this is a ghost episode.
I'm glad it's not just me that also wrote this down.
And then it's like good, don't get me wrong, like it's not a bad episode. I'm like, yeah, Mike and Alison going out on a night out, Barkley dropping off some toys, like discussing like the ghosts. Like I was far more invested in the ghosts talking about them, like the potential of them moving on or than I was Mike and Alison going out. And I almost feel like it was good because it kind of removed Mike and Alison completely from the house and it just left us to like look at the ghosts. And also on the first watch you're sitting there going, oh my god, they're building it up, who's gonna go? Like you really do think like which one of them is it gonna be. And I remember at the time thinking when we first watched it, like, but none of them can go because all of them need to be here for like the last episode. They're not gonna surely get rid of one right now, and they don't, so it's fine. But like
I guess I forgot about that because obviously I know that they don't go, so the jeopardy of that's gone. But if you've never watched it before, you could be thinking, well, they've done it before.
Yeah,
so like,
who's going to go?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think just the first sort of 15-20 minutes, like just plodding on, like watching the episode, and then it's just like bam, 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 like it hits you, like all these like emotional things like happen. Obviously, with the captain, not going to call him James because he's the captain. It's just so emotional because it's that like something that always like gets you. I think is that like love that never was.
Yeah, that if you want to make me cry in a film, just have like a relationship that wants to work but can't. It's just, I don't know why it always gets me. I don't know why.
It's just, and I think because it was hinted so early on, we've kind of like assumed that there was something going on, and now we've finally got that like last thing. And I think he's the last ghost now that we know how he dies.
I think so. I think that was the last one, with the captain.
So it's kind of just like all closing in, and again, it's just emotional that like it's just this like, I don't know, it's coming to an end. So, yeah, it's just
Yeah.
What do you think?
Fun. Yeah, I thought I was going to be the only person. I guess not. It's probably
just be us.
incredibly big-headed of me to think this, but for about 2/3 of the episode, it's like a nice, fun plot about. I put about the living and the dead both worried about moving on, like in different aspects of their life. You know, the ghosts, and you get the ghost pairing off for their different adventures, and then you get the final third, which absolutely like
cripples you.
It nailed this episode as being like one of the best episodes. Like it goes from like it's pretty decent to wow, okay, that's like up there. You get all the ghosts worried about the end, like, you know, and like that scene of them all waiting for the clock to strike 12. The captain's just heartbreaking reunion. Like, it's just so unbelievably sad that all he wanted to do was see Havers, and that was robbed of him. Literally right there. He was literally right there.
Yeah.
And then you get the final line dancing as well. So it's just I put it's peak Ghost, where it gets every emotion out of you in the space of like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're scared, incredibly sad, and then laughing, and probably through all of them you're tearing up. It's not a perfect episode, because I think the first 2/3 are just a normal episode, but I think that third definitely bumps it up to one of the best. So with that, I gave it a 9.5. I had to give it I took off a 0.5 for just the first half, the first 2/3 being.
Do you know what? No.
Okay.
I'm going to give it a 10.
Okay, yeah, I completely understand.
And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you for why. I'll tell you why. Because the... I can't think of the word I'm looking for. The normality, or the dullness, if you like, in the best way, of the first 15 minutes, or 15 to 20 minutes. And it's not dull, that's not really the right word, but like just the normal helps that second half to hit you harder.
I get that, yeah, I can understand
and
that.
I really think that, and so I don't think that us considering the first sort of 15 minutes of the episode boring, or like just a normal Ghost episode, like, you know, like what we'd expect from Ghosts, helps you to just kind of get hit harder. It wouldn't be as good of an episode if for 30 minutes we were like crying, laughing, like it would just be too much. I think it's good that it just kind of hits you as it
right
does.
At the end, yeah.
So that's why I would, for the reasons, give it a 9.5, but I wouldn't knock anything off. Like I wouldn't knock off that for what you did. So I think I have to give it a 10.
Fair enough. Oh, IMDb.
Oh yeah. What do these guys? What do they think?
Not a 10, not a 9.5. No. With 368 votes, it gets an 8.5.
What the hell?
But it's still listed as one of the best rated episodes.
Get out of here.
I think the best rated is like an 8.7.
I don't care what IMDb think anyway.
I think the trouble with IMDb is it has to compare it to everything created ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I'd hazard to guess what the best rated TV episode ever is on IMDb. You know what I mean? It's probably going to be a Breaking Bad episode or something, knowing the way.
Yeah, and something we haven't even watched.
Don't say that. That really annoys people. If you say you've not watched Breaking Bad, they're like, "What? You've not watched?"
I've not watched it. Don't intend to either.
It was one of those. It just didn't start it.
Ghost Stories with Luke and Tash.
So, for this spooky tale, we're going to a cabin. You ready?
Yeah.
So, get my scary voice on. A hiker decided to go on a hike by himself, something he was not very used to. The whole day was normal. Trees and bushes engulfed his surroundings. He enjoyed being outdoors in the mountains. Nothing seemed strange to him. That was until he was making his way back to the car. He figured an 8-hour hike was good enough. The sky was already getting dark and he needed to get back fast. What was odd was how much he didn't recognise the trail back. He began to panic. Night had already taken over and all he had was a torch and no clue on how to get back. He knew it was already too late and too dangerous to keep going through the perilous forest. He began to worry that he would have no shelter for the night when, almost lucky enough, he stumbled across a broken down cabin. It was dark and it seemed like no one had visited it in years, but he knew it was the only place where he could get rest until daylight, especially since his torch was running out of battery. He knocked on the door a few times, but no one answered, so he let himself in, where strangely enough a perfect bed fitted for one person awaited him in the centre. He knew that if the owner came back, he could explain himself. He was sure that the owner wouldn't mind. Or he was probably dead.
Don't know why. It sounds like, do you know that Shia LaBeouf story? It's a bit like that. Sorry.
So he went ahead and got himself comfortable in bed. As he tried to sleep, he couldn't ignore the collection of paintings around the room. Portraits of strange-looking people all peering at him, each wearing a smile that sent chills up his spine. Not too long after, his exhaustion from the hike got the best of him, and he was able to ignore the faces and fall asleep. The next morning he got up early and was shocked to see there were no paintings around the room, but there were windows.
People outside.
Thanks for listening. We love to hear what you think, and if you'd like to keep up to date with when new episodes of the podcast are released, you can follow us on our Instagram and our Facebook profile. Just search Haunting Button House. You can also get in touch via email at hauntingbuttonhouse@outlook.com.